forgot to start the recording, y'all. Again, welcome to Copyright This and Trademark That. Anywho, let me just go back on slides. Boom, you got it. All right, I forgot to start the recording. Anywho, if you are not a Kingdom CEO, please understand that the Holy Spirit will snitch on you, okay? I had somebody who was on my email list, had registered for this training, and I unsubscribed them. Why? Because they were not eligible. Okay, I don't support anything that is the kingdom of darkness. So if it's the kingdom of darkness, I will shut your business down, but I will not help you build it. All right, now that that's out the way, you know what I stand for, okay? So Armed and Legally Dangerous, we have four pillars that we do things through. So we do training, we do coaching, and we do consulting. And so we have general trainings, which is this, what you're hearing now. This is a general training for the general public of Kingdom CEOs. We also have the Armory. The Armory is where we store our weapons. So any weapon you need, whether it's legal, business, or spiritual, we store it in the Armory. And then we have our paid portion of Armed and Legally Dangerous, and that is our community as well as our legal membership. The community you can join for as little as $10 a month or $100 a year. Is that commitment? And the legal membership is right now it's $33 a month and $330 for the year. Now they both have different requirements as well as different benefits, but you get training and you get access. Training and access, meaning that both include trainings and it includes office hours, meaning you get to step into my virtual office and you get to ask your questions, okay? Now, we focus on legal, business, and spiritual. So some of you that are on my email list, you've been receiving the Kingdom Pioneer Mindset Cultivator. You've also been receiving One Dangerous Prayer because, look, Kingdom CEOs, we need prayer, y'all. We got to be praying, praying, and praying if we want to be truly weaponized. So a little bit about me, because some of you have never met me. I am Chayla Jackson. I am the Purpose Police, here to serve and protect Kingdom CEOs so that you are armed and legally dangerous to protect God's business and your business too. I'm the founder of Armed and Legally Dangerous, and I'm also a trademark and business attorney. I serve as chief legal counsel of my law firm, Legacy Legal and Consulting Firm. So I'm not just teaching, I also run a legal practice. So what I am teaching my clients and what I'm doing for them, I'm also taking that and giving it to you as well. I have been licensed to practice law since 2015. This year makes 10 years, y'all. 10 years I've been licensed and I've been practicing law. I'm also a business owner. So one of the things that took place when I first started teaching on the laws of doing business back in 2020 is when I launched my book, is that I realized that all of us are at different stages in our business and at different budget ranges. And so people needed access to legal education, which is where I started training and teaching here. But then they also needed contracts, but they couldn't hire attorneys. And so I had people who wanted to work with me, but I wasn't licensed in their state. And so I started 180 Contracts, which is my contract template company, as a solution and also a medium place to meet people where they are. So they weren't getting janky contracts off the internet, borrowing contracts that actually didn't protect them. And so the contract provisions I put in my law firm clients' contracts, I put in 180 Contracts. And baby, look, I'm gonna stay focused today on copyrights and trademarks, all right? Because I love the law. And so I graduated from Georgetown Law as well as University of Maryland College Park. I'm from Maryland originally. And of course, I mentioned my book. I'm the author of Build a Legit Business, Avoid Costly Mistakes Entrepreneurs Make. And I've been featured. Y'all see that speaking. I spoke, teach, featured. Every place that I've spoken at is not listed. But one of the things that I want to mention is that I was a business owner before I was an attorney. I had a photography business first. And I remember I ain't know nothing what I was doing, y'all. I had no clue. I was on the internet searching and I'm like, what? The more I searched, the more confused I became. The more I looked up the internet, the more I was like, hold on, what? You said this and you said that. And so Armed and Legally Dangerous helps you get rid of the confusion, save time, and get you the information that you actually need so that you can actually build your business without wasting time and wasting money. And I'm so glad I wasn't sued because, baby, I DIY'd my own contract and let's just say I'm thankful for law school and I came a long way. All right. So that is a little bit about me. And just so you know that at Georgetown Law, I actually taught law. I taught law to DC high school students, as well as students on probation in DC. And I actually went back for 1 year in the LLM clinical teaching program for Georgetown Law, and I taught Georgetown Law students how to actually teach. So I have been trained in teaching methodologies. Look, if y'all teachers in here, classroom management, oh baby, but I missed the classroom. But the way I teach and the way I've been trained to teach is immersive education, meaning y'all, we don't learn by people talking at us. That's just not how we learn. That's not how you retain information. So you're going to hear me talk in a way that is not the traditional legal speak, because we need to be able to match it to what we already know so that it sinks in. All right. So now that I have introduced myself, first and foremost, I want you to take a screenshot of this page. Take a screenshot of this page. Take a screenshot. Take a screenshot. Take a screenshot so that you can stay connected. Connect, subscribe, and follow on social media, YouTube. I'm still trying to get to 51 subscribers on YouTube so I can start going live. It is much easier for me to hit record and give you what you need, okay? I can do it a whole lot better than if I have to record it, upload it, and yeah, that I got videos in my phone from over 2-3 years ago that still have not been uploaded. All right, so let's get ready to get started. So I start with a legal disclaimer for those of y'all take notes, because you may be needing to put this into your materials if you do online webinars. So first and foremost, Armed and Legally Dangerous provides legal education, coaching, and consulting. There is no legal advice or services included as a part of Armed and Legally Dangerous. If you need legal advice about your specific business, consult an attorney licensed in your state for any state-specific matters. I'm licensed in Maryland, DC. If you need trademark copyrights, I can help you no matter what state. There is no attorney-client relationship between me, you, or your business. You are solely responsible for all actions you take on the information in this training and other trainings, as well as office hours, if you decide to participate in a special offer I'm going to give you. Everything that is in this presentation, this training, is copyright protected. And so please do not take screenshots unless I tell you to take screenshots. Please don't do that. All right. Now, let's jump in to tonight. Copyright this, trademark that. I did have a slide and I don't see it here. So just really quickly, some housekeeping rules. Please save your questions to the Q&A section. I see the chat, Paris. I saw you, girl. Adding, thank you. I saw your comments. It comes up on my screen, but I'm not able to see the chat while I am going through the presentation. So save your questions to the Q&A portion, unless it's like a really, really pressing question, then I may be able to see it and answer it right then in the moment. And so again, this is interactive. So y'all be ready. Make sure you're in a silent, a good place where you can pay attention, because we're going to be training and testing your skills. All right. So let's get started. So why does this matter? Why does it matter about copyright this and trademark that? What does it all matter? So first and foremost, y'all probably know about Dr. Seuss, right? So many of us are still saying one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish, all the places you'll go, right? We grew up, some of us grew up on Dr. Seuss, or we've seen the movies as we got older. And so Dr. Seuss has been deceased for over 30 years, y'all. It's been over 30 years since he has passed on. But his estate is still earning from the copyrights that he created. And so the highest revenue paid for to his estate in 2020 was $33 million. Not 1 million, not 2 million, 33 million. And it had increased from the previous year by 9 million. So it went up 9 million from the previous year. Y'all, how many of y'all would love to have 33 million coming in just from your copyrights, just from your creative ideas, just from what God downloaded to you? How many of y'all would love that? And so here's the source of it. It came from book sales. How many of y'all got a book? It came from book sales. And then from that, it came licensing deals. Look, come on, Tamisha. Come on. I can do a whole lot with 33 million, y'all. And so for those of you, just in case you're like, I don't know, 33 million, I want you to think about what you could do with that money. Baby, what's on your heart? What has God put on your heart? Yes, you could wipe out your debt, but how about, look, I'm gonna share with someone something that's on my heart. How about sending missionaries into countries that haven't heard the gospel? How about sending Bibles into prisons? How about feeding the homeless? What could you do as a financier of the kingdom of God? And so the source, it started with his books and it turned into licensing deals. From licensing deals, it turned into partnerships for TV shows, movies, and even theme parks. So from one book, and from the books he created his copyrights, he then expanded to increase it. And this is how we have movies now that have Dr. Seuss with Cat in the Hat, everything coming out that is still connected to what? His copyrights. His copyrights. Another reason why it matters is maybe you have seen Famous Amos cookies. How many of y'all have seen Famous Amos cookies? Y'all ate them? They taste good? Do they? Well, hear about this. Famous Amos, he passed away in 2024. So that was last year. But he sold his company and the trademark in 1988 for $1.1 million. Now, that was probably a lot back in 1988. But in 1992, just 4 years later, the company he sold it to sold it for $61 million. $61 million they sold it for. And the trademark the trademark he had, it was originally owned by his original company. And so he started another company, Famous Amos started another company, but he couldn't use the original name anymore. Why? Because it's trademark protected. So he had to come up with another name called Uncle No Man's Cookie Company. This is why it matters, y'all. But let's go a step farther. How many of y'all heard about Hillman Talk? I think it was like a couple of months ago. My aunt was like, "Oh my gosh, you have to get on TikTok. You have to join Hillman Talk." And y'all, I had deleted TikTok, so I couldn't get back on during the ban. And then I just said, I said, God, if you want me on TikTok, then you'll just make a way. And if not, I'm not even gonna worry about this. How about they opened up the ban, y'all, and I was able to get back on TikTok. But I still ain't been active on it, so that's a whole nother matter. But how many of y'all heard about Hillman TikTok? What's that? Hillman Talk, Hillman Talk. How many of y'all heard about it? About the teaching and everything they're doing through Hillman Talk. And y'all can talk back to me in the chat. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Okay. So look, I don't know who the founder is, y'all. I really don't. But from my research, it seemed like this person, Alicia, said that she founded more talk. But somebody founded, I forgot the person's name, founded Hillman Talk, but it came through Dr. Barlow. Now, I came across a video from one of the creators of Hillman Talk, and she was talking about this. And the reality is that they had this amazing idea, they launched it, but they did not secure the trademarks. And so two companies swooped in, and they filed a trademark, one for Hillman Talk University and the other one for Hillman Talk University HBCU. Now, y'all see this, they're in two different classes, right? Two different classes. Now, I'm not going to go into trademarks because this is not a deep dive on trademarks, y'all. So I'm not going to go into the potentiality of them actually being registered. But the reality is that when you don't protect your brand, somebody can swoop right in. And you can lose the rights to use that name because you don't have the trademark, or you're going to have to fight it. So this is why it matters. But here's the thing. While they swooped in, there were already other trademarks registered, some that had been canceled, abandoned for different Hillman Grad, Hillman College, Hillman Bookstore, just many different trademarks. So another reason why it matters is because people get on Facebook groups and they be asking questions. And somebody asked a question about podcasting, and it was like, when it comes to playing music, there's intellectual property and trademark rules that you have to follow. This is what they posted in the group, y'all. And so people were, they were saying things, and I'm gonna point one out because it's gonna come back later, and you're gonna understand why. And it was like Sergio said he paid a musician friend to make his own intro and music for the show. And 7 years later, no issues with Facebook, YouTube. So no issues there, but we're going to talk about when we get into copyrights, why this might not actually be a good thing in the copyright realm. And so somebody came back and I left their comment, I actually cackled, and it was like, it's copyright, not trademark. Because, you know, some people just don't know what falls under copyright and trademark. And I saw that today when I was talking to a potential law firm client, is they just did not understand what part of their brand would be protected under copyright law versus trademark. But anytime that we are building, anytime you build anything, you have to deal with the foundation. And so tonight, before we get started laying the foundation for copyrights and trademarks, we're going to deal with faulty foundations. What are the lies that you believe around copyrights and trademarks? Because if you've been building your business so far on a lie, you're building on a faulty foundation. And anything built on a faulty foundation cannot stand. That means God is giving you ideas, he's downloading it, and you're not properly securing it. You're not properly building on the right foundation, which means it's chance that you are leaving yourself wide open for the enemy to come in to steal, kill, and destroy the God thing, the God purpose, what he gave you. But here is the thing. The enemy comes in the form of a cease and desist, trademark infringement lawsuit, copyright infringement lawsuit. And we just think, oh, I didn't know. It doesn't matter if you didn't know, you are supposed to know. So let's deal with faulty foundations and expose the lies so that we can then start building the truth. Now, what I want you to do is, look, some of this might be ouch for you. What I want you to do is I want you to drop the number in the chat of the lie that you believe. There's no shame. There's no condemnation here. Armed and Legally Dangerous is a safe place for you to reveal and expose your mistakes, but also to correct them. Okay? So ain't no judgment here. We've all been there. So let's talk about the lies. So have you believed that if it's on the internet, it's free to use? Drop that in the chat. And the reality is just because it's online doesn't mean it's not protected. You can take a screenshot of these slides, okay? Because I'm not going to go into everything. Have you believed I gave credit to the creator so I can use it? Not necessarily the truth. You got to have permission. Number 3, I only use a small part, so it's fair use. That's not what counts as fair use, and we're going to talk about it when we get into copyrights. Number 4, I bought it, so I own the copyright. Oh, not true. And we're going to talk about that as well. Number 5, I made changes to it, so now it's mine. Just because you make changes to it, which is called a derivative work, doesn't necessarily mean that you're not committing copyright infringement or that you can legally use that work or own the copyright. Number 6, if there's no copyright symbol, it's not protected. Yeah, that's not true. The moment it meets the criteria, copyright protection automatically applies whether you use a symbol or not. Number 7, copyright only applies to published works. You probably don't know what a published work is. And so just really quickly, a published work is work that has been made available to the public, either for sale, for distribution, for lending, for leasing. So it's been made available. And so just because something hasn't been made available, I want you to think about, some of you write books. I want you to think about those contents that's unpublished. You haven't made it available, but it falls under copyright protection because it meets the criteria. That's an unpublished work versus a published work. So unpublished work still has copyright protection, whether it's published or not. Number 8, as long as it's for non-commercial use, meaning you're not trying to make money off of it, I can use it. Nope, that's the wrong thing. That's wrong. It's wrong, y'all. It's a lie. It's a lie. Number 9, AI generated content is free to use however I want. Not necessary so. It is possible that AI generated content can be protected under another area of law. All right. You can take a screenshot of this slide as well so that you have it. You can come back to it. I can just remove the watermark and use the image. Y'all, have y'all believed this lie? If I just remove the watermark, I can use it. The watermark is there for a purpose, but absolutely not. You cannot do that, okay? This will get you in trouble. Number 11, everything my employee or freelancer creates belongs to me. Not so. Not so. We're going to talk about that when we get to copyrights. Number 12, I copyrighted my business name. Y'all, you cannot copyright your business name. You cannot copyright your business name. Names, titles, slogans, and short phrases are usually under trademark law, not copyrights. Number 13, I don't need to register a copyright if I'm the creator. First and foremost, you cannot even sue for copyright infringement if you don't have a registration. That's the power of registration. Number 14, I can use stock images however I want. No, you cannot. Every stock image has a license that you have to abide by. And so you have to understand what the license is. Number 15, I can use competitors' content if I remix it. Y'all, remixing it don't mean you got the permission to use it, okay? Don't get caught up with a cease and desist or copyright infringement lawsuit. Number 16, I registered my domain name, so I own the trademark. Your domain name does not mean you have a trademark, okay? Number 17, I've been using the name for years, so I'm safe. The reality is there have been people who have been using the name for years and they just haven't been caught for trademark infringement. Just because you haven't been caught, just because you think you're safe, doesn't mean that you're not infringing on someone else's trademark rights. Number 18, I trademark my logo, so no one can use anything similar. That is not true. Because trademarks, even when you register your trademark, it depends on the class that is registered. I'm going to go into that a little bit later so you'll understand what that means. You can take a screenshot of this. Number 19, I've registered my LLC name, so I own the trademark. Again, that don't give you trademark rights, okay? Registering your business with the state is not the same as registering a trademark. And some states allow for you to register a state trademark, but it's still not the same as a federal trademark. I can use the R symbol even if my mark isn't registered. You cannot. The R symbol is only for federally registered trademarks. A trademark is good worldwide. There's no such thing as a worldwide trademark. And this is important for those of you who are thinking about going overseas, expanding globally. You need to understand that copyright and trademark law is based on the country. So every country that you are in, you want to make sure that you understand their copyright and trademark laws and then apply there if you want protection. Number 22, I don't need a trademark if I have a website and social media. Y'all, that's not how trademarks work. That's not how trademarks work. 24, once I register, I'm protected forever. Absolutely not. Trademarks have to be maintained and renewed. There's continuous filings. 25, trademarks are only for big brands. No, it is not. Because look, we all know that what is in the seed at the start grows. So when God gives you something in seed form, it can grow into millions of dollars. And for some of us, it's not millions, but it can be thousands of dollars. God multiplies, he produces. And so don't think, we call ourselves sometimes small businesses. Don't think just because you're small now, you'll forever be small. You want to be thinking about the vision and thinking ahead as you expand and grow. And trademarks are a significant part of that growth process. 26, I can trademark a quote or common phrase. No, you cannot. But you can only do it if it qualifies for trademark protection, especially for a phrase or a slogan, if it meets the definition of a trademark. 27, if it's different enough, I can copy their logo. Y'all just don't do it. Just don't do it because copyright confusion. But it can also be trademark. All right, number 29, I trademark my brand so I can stop anyone from talking about it. No, you cannot. There's free speech and there are areas in the law where someone can still talk about your trademark brand. 30, once I get a trademark, I don't need to monitor or enforce it. You can lose your trademark rights if you do not enforce your rights. And so an example of that would be Xerox. Xerox is a trademark, but copy machines started becoming more prevalent. People started calling them Xerox machines instead of copier machines. And so Xerox had to go on the offensive and start like changing the language to say, no, that's a copier machine, not a Xerox. So they wouldn't lose their trademark rights. So you have to monitor and you have to enforce, because if somebody is using a mark, first and foremost, that is, if it's similar to yours, it's diverting your potential clients and cash flow, but also is showing that your mark is actually not protectable. So you can lose your rights. And number 31 is a bonus, and is you can trust your brand designers to avoid copyright and trademark infringement. And so I want to give you an example of something that I recently went through this year. And that was I hired a brand designer to rebrand my company, One of the contracts. And one of the first revisions they came back with was the top one. Y'all see that? And y'all see how there are the what do you call those? The scales in the zero. Now you see the bottom one. I don't know how many of you know about traffic, sales, and profit, but I'm in the Facebook group, so I was familiar with their logo. Doesn't the logo look very similar to the other one? Y'all talk back to me. Don't it look similar? It looks similar, don't it? Like, hold on, they got the scales, this got the scales, this got the scales, this got the scales. And so I said, you know what? And although I kind of like the logo, I said, we're going to have to come up with a different example. Yeah, the graph part, right? We're going to have to come up with a different, we're going to have to go back to the drawing board on this, because I did not want to launch the rebrand and then face a trademark infringement or a cease and desist for copyright infringement, all because I was not aware. And for some of you, you may not be aware, if you're working with someone or designing, whether or not an existing brand already has this. I'm gonna give you a tip right here. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I'm gonna give you a tip because you're in here. Use Google reverse image search. Use Google reverse image search. Put the image in there and see what pops up. That is a free resource you can use to see, is anybody else have this similar brand or logo, so that you can see, okay, maybe it's copyright infringement, maybe it's trademark infringement, and you can just avoid the headache. All right, so let's get ready to get into and lay the foundation, y'all. So 30 seconds, I want you to grab a copyright. Whatever you think a copyright is, I want you to go and grab it. I want you to go grab it now. Go, go, go. Go, go, go. Go, 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 go. Just grab anything. Let me see. Let me grab something. Let's grab something. Grab a copyright. Oh, grab this. Grab a copyright. Grab a copyright. All right. All right. So let's get into copyrights. First and foremost, understand this, is that God is the first ever copyright owner. And so we know that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and all the people who dwell within it. In the beginning, God created. Boom. Genesis 1. God is the original copyright owner. God created everything we see and what we don't see as the creator, and he is the original and first copyright owner. But we also are copyright owners. We have created something in our lives that we have copyright ownership over. Everyone does. It doesn't matter how young they are, except for, babies and toddlers. But if they drawn, they become a copyright owner. Okay, they are copyright owner. And so first, understand, what is a copyright? A copyright is a type of intellectual property that protects original works of authorship, automatically vesting the legal rights or copyright to the author of that original work once it is fixed in a tangible form of expression. What you talking about, Chayla? What you talking about? This is what I'm talking about. Okay? If it's original and it's creative, it is eligible for copyright protection. But copyright protection doesn't automatically apply until it is fixed in a tangible form of expression. So right now we are streaming live. This presentation, this training, the live recording is in transit. It's not fixed, meaning it is not copyright protected. No copyright applies right now. But the moment that this recording is done and it is in a MP4 format, copyright protection will automatically apply. Automatically. That is a copyright. A copyright is a type of intellectual property, but it's also a legal right. Copyright protection. So it has to be in a tangible form of expression. I have to be able to touch it. I have to be able to see it. It has to be tangible. It has to be in the real world. It can't just be in your head or an idea. And so understand this, is that every copyright has a bundle of rights. Every copyright is not just a single legal right. It has several rights included. And so every copyright includes 3 universal rights. No matter what type of copyright it is, it has 3 universal rights. And then, depending on the type of copyright it is, it has conditional rights. So what are the bundle of rights? The unconditional rights are 1, the right to reproduce and make copies, print, scan, and distribute. The right to reproduce, make copies, print, scan, and distribute. That's a right. The second right is to distribute. So this is where you get into sales, you get into licenses, or you get into lending the work out. The right to distribute. Next, you get to the right to adapt. This is the right to create derivative works. So a derivative work is essentially, think about a book turning into a movie. The movie is a derivative work based on the book. It's a new copyright, but it's based on the original copyright. Now, other rights which depends on the type of copyright it is the right to publicly perform. Look, you're not going to perform a book because it's a book, but you may perform a play. The right to publicly perform. The next type of right is the right to publicly display. And so this is where you can actually display the work publicly. So an image could be displayed. And next is the right to publicly perform via digital audio transmission. So a book, a physical book, is not going to be able to be performed via digital audio transmission. However, let's say an audio book. Now that can be publicly performed. Why? Because you can put it on the radio, you can put it anywhere else and let it play. It can be publicly performed. So it depends on the type of copyright. It depends on the bundle of rights that it has. But these bundle of rights is in every copyright, in every single copyright, which means you don't have to give away all of the rights within a copyright. But we might get to that. So what qualifies as a copyright? Well, first and foremost, there are eligible works for copyright protection. And so copyrights protect creative works of expression, the creative expression. And so the different types you have are literary works, which are books, poems. You have dramatic works, which are plays, screenplays, motion pictures, and other audiovisual works, such as films, television. You have musical works, compositions, pictorial, graphic, and sculptural works called paintings, photographs. Actually register a copyright under this type of a copyright for a client, and we actually copyrighted their soaps. You also have patented and choreographic works like dances, architectural works, designs, plans, and sound recordings like music or other sounds, including podcasts. And so the copyright that you grabbed, I want you to drop the number in the chat. Where do you believe it falls under? Is it a literary work? Put number 1. Is it a dramatic work? Number 2. Is it a motion picture? Did you grab a movie? Is it number 3? Musical work? 4. Pictorial sculpture? 5. Pantomime? 6. 7. Architectural? 8. All right, I got 1. So Kelly, literary work. Tamisha, literary work. Okay, look, that was probably the easiest one for most of us to grab. Oh, somebody got 5. They got a pictorial, graphic, sculptural work. Cool. Anybody else? What did you grab? What did you grab? And so this is important. Oh, we got a musical work. Look, hold on now. What you got, Carla? A musical work. And so that's cool. And so you want to understand when you're grabbing and when you're looking at your copyrights and creating what type of work it is. Because when you know what type of work it is, now you know what bundle of rights is included. So with a book, you know it's going to have at least the universal rights. Every one of these is going to have the universal rights. But if it's a musical work, depending on what it is, then you might be able to publicly display that work. Go ahead, Carla. She owned her musical work. I know that's right, y'all. Come on. So eligibility for copyright protection. There are some things that are eligible for copyright, such as books, photos, course videos, movies, podcasts, logos, music, audio training recordings, websites, blog, social media graphics, even some of your newsletters, eligible for copyright protection. But there are certain things that are not eligible for copyright protection, meaning they will never be a copyright. They will never be protected. Ideas are not copyright protected. Remember, copyrights have to be expressed in reality. Titles, names, short phrases, slogans, not copyright protected. Characters, themes, or plots, nope. Common knowledge, factual information or data, concepts, formulas, systems, or methods, not copyright protection. Some of you have proprietary frameworks that you use in your coaching business, things that you use with your clients. It doesn't fall under copyright protection. So that the way you would protect it is in a contract. Okay. Other things that are not protected. Any work by the U.S. government doesn't fall under copyright protection. Domain names, brand names, and works within the public domain, not copyright protection. Now, the public domain are what it means is that these are works that because copyright protection don't apply, the public can use it. It's in the public domain. So it's not copyright protected. And so in the public domain could be works, again, like this. Works like this that don't fall under copyright protection falls within the public domain, as well as copyrights that have lost their copyright protection. Because copyrights, if it's an individual creator, last for the life of the creator plus 70 years. So we saw Dr. Seuss, he died more than 30 years ago. He still has about 30 to 40 something years left on those copyrights because it lives on. Other things, another thing that's not eligible for copyright protection is AI generated content. Many of us are using artificial intelligence. It's not copyright protection unless, but only if there's no human input. Now, human input don't mean that you put in the information. It means you have to actually be a part of the creative process, moving things, changing things. There's a level of human input requirement that is required for something to be protected as a copyright. Okay. And so I mentioned fair use doctrine earlier when we're talking about the lies. And so understand that fair use is a concept under copyright law that allows for limited use of copyright material without permission, but for the purposes of criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. And all of this is without infringing on the copyright holder's rights. Why? Because y'all, this is not grade school. In school, they used to teach us if we quote our sources, we can use it. In the real world, in business, if you use it without permission, it's copyright infringement. And I didn't know is not an excuse of the law because it is strict liability. If you do it, you are liable. Okay. So golden rule, if it ain't yours, don't touch it unless you have the express permission or license to do it. If you do that and you don't have the permission, you are liable under copyright infringement. So again, remember, ideas are not protected. So you may be wondering, how do you protect your ideas? You do that with a contract. The other way you protect your ideas, and this is what I teach, is with a holy hush. A holy hush. I saw someone on Facebook the other day talking about their God dream, and they put stuff on Facebook, and I was like, you know what? You literally just expose your brand name. You just expose it, and now somebody can swoop in and steal it. And if they trademark it, you done lost it. All because people don't understand the holy hush. Everything God gives you is not for you to give it to the public. You have to be a good steward over the mysteries of the kingdom of God and the treasures that God downloads. Because as it is in heaven, he wants you to build it on the earth. But you can't do that if you don't understand ideas are not protected. And if ideas are not protected, that means you need to learn how to keep your mouth silent. Heal from the need to have validation and approval of man so that you don't expose the God thing and then lose your rights to it. All right. So one thing about copyrights is that registration doesn't create a copyright, y'all. You have a copyright before you ever register it. So the moment it is fixed in a tangible medium expression, boom, copyright protection exists. So for some of you who are writing drafts of your books, boom, copyright protection exists. When you're doing your slides for presentation or your courses, copyright protection is the moment it is fixed in a tangible medium of expression, boom, copyright exists. And every time you upload the draft, boom, copyright attaches right then and there. All right. So when does copyright protection apply? Oh, I just mentioned that. Copyright protection applies when the following has been true automatically. It's original creative work. It's created by a human and it's fixed in a tangible medium of expression. So if copyright protection doesn't apply, it's fair game, meaning no copyright, no ownership, and you have no right to block others from using it. You ain't got no rights to enforce protection. So let's get ready for interactive, y'all. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Y'all ready to apply what I just gave you? Because I know I just gave you some stuff. Now we got to get ready to apply it. So this is skills building. Skill building. All right. So copyright protected or nope? Copyright protected or nope? So is it copyright protected or nope? It ain't no copyright protection. So here's our scenario. Maria wrote a heartfelt blog post about her childhood memories growing up on a farm. She included a poem she composed herself. She ended the post with the phrase, live, laugh, Oh, sorry, y'all. Live, laugh, love. That's supposed to be love. And included a list of gardening tips, such as water early in the morning and use compost for healthier soil. She also added a scanned copy of a 1920s newspaper article and a photo she took of her backyard. Does copyright protection apply or not? So let me, oh, y'all answering already. That's great. That's great. Look, I was about to pull up a poll, but y'all answer. Go ahead and answer in the chat. I ain't got to pull up the poll. Go ahead. Go ahead. Unless y'all want me to pull up the poll. I had a poll ready, y'all. I had a poll ready. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, y'all should be able to see the poll now. There you go. So answer the poll. Is it copyright protected or no? So you got copyright protected. Nope, it's not. Or you're not sure. Okay, answers coming in. Answers coming in. What do you think it is? Okay. All right, I'm going to give it 10 more seconds and I'm going to close the poll. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. All right, get your vote in. The poll closes now. All right, so 80% of you said copyright protected, and then one of you said nope. So here is the answer. It is copyright protected. It is copyright protected. Okay, so it's copyright protected, but I'm not going to tell you what is copyright protected just yet, because now we're going to talk about name that copyright. So same scenario, but now I want you to tell me how many copyrights do you see? How many copyrights do you see? All right, so let me launch the poll. All right, how many copyrights do you see? Now, hopefully the poll is not blinding it, but just in case, and I'll read it to you. Maria created a blog. In the blog, she included a, y'all, I hope y'all ain't seen my slide. She created a blog. In the blog, she included a poem. She also included a gardening list. She also included a phrase called live, laugh, love. She also included an article she scanned from 1920s, and then she included a photo of herself. So 5 more seconds. Get your vote in. Get your vote in. And it's okay if you don't know. Just try it. Just try it. Just try it. Y'all, this is why. Just try it. Don't be so afraid of getting the wrong answer. I want you to try it. Okay, this is a safe place. All right, let me close the poll. All right. It's even. So we got the votes. We have about some of you said about half and half said 3, and the rest of you said 6. Oh, we got one that had 8. We got 3, 5, and 8. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's answer it. It's 3 actually. It's 3. Now, before I tell you, yep, it's 3. It's 3. So you have the blog post, you have the poem, and you have the photo. Somebody tell me why the phrase is not protected. Do y'all remember why? Do you remember why the phrase is not protected? And if you don't, it's okay. So phrases, slogans, yep, phrases, slogans, names, titles are not protected under copyright law. It's just not protected. It's just not protected. It's not even about it being common, Kelly. It's just not protected. So just knowing it's just not protected, period. So that list of eligible copyrights, protected, not protected, phrases fall under, it's just not protected. You don't even have to do no analysis. You just need to know it's not even eligible. Boom, cut it off. Now, the list of gardening tips is not protected because it's just factual information. It's not even, there's nothing original about it. It water early in the morning, use compost. It's just a list. And so therefore it's not copyright protected. But This is one I didn't share with you. So the 1920s newspaper article is not protected because it's pre-1929. And so under copyright law, there are certain years that the Copyright Office has said anything created before this time has now lost its copyright protection. And so anything created pre-1929 is not copyright protected. Okay, meaning it's fair game. You can use it. All right, so just a reminder, and if you can take a screenshot of this so you have it. What's on the right is copyright protection. What's on the left is not copyright protection. So phrases, factual information or data, not copyright protected. All right, so remember, once the creative work is created and fixed in a tangible, fixed medium expression, the copyright is created automatically and copyright protection applies. So one of the things that I want to share with you briefly is this, is that there's a difference between a copyright author, owner, and holder. So when copyright protection applies, the owner of that is typically the copyright author, the person who actually created it. So whoever created the work is the author. So I give this example. If you have, let's say you have a daughter and your daughter takes a photo of you, who is the copyright author? Who created that photo? The daughter, exactly. Your daughter has a copyright. Now, remember we said copyrights are strict liability. You can't use it if you don't own it. You can't use it if you don't have permission, which means your daughter, she's a copyright author. Look, some of y'all be livid if your daughter said, you can't use that photo I took. You got to pay me because that's my copyright. But that is the law. The same thing. Did you hire a photographer to take your brand photos? Did you hire someone to create videos for you? They are the original copyright author. But there's something called a copyright owner. And so a copyright owner could be the copyright author, or it could be another person or entity who has the exclusive rights to the work. And so this can be done either through operation of law or by an assignment of the copyright. So what do I mean by that? Say you hire someone to do work for you, like take your brand photos. They are the original copyright author. But in order for you to become the owner, meaning that there's a transfer of the copyright rights, you have to have a contract. If you want to own it, you have to put a contract on it. No contract, no ownership. So ownership only changes if there's a contract in place that says it changes. And so in order for you to become the copyright owner of a work you did not create, you have to have a contract in place. And so with your brand photographer, let's say you put a contract in place. Now, because you put certain language in your contract, you have become the copyright owner, which means you can stop your brand photographer from using your photos. Why? Because you now are the copyright owner. And then you have the copyright holder. The copyright holder is really the person or entity that possesses the copyright. So they have the legal authority to control how the copyright is used, the distribution of the work, those bundle of rights. And the copyright holder can be the author or the owner, okay? It can be the author or the owner, but this is the person who holds the rights. So many of us understand keys, authority, right? Biblically, the copyright holder is the one that holds the keys. They're the owner. They got authority over the copyright. All right. And so here is an area of law where the copyright author could actually be someone else, even though they created the work. And it's under a doctrine called work made for hire. And so just because the contract says it's a work made for hire doesn't actually make it a work made for hire. This is a legal definition that has 9 statutory categories of what classifies as a work made for hire under the law. And so employees, if you hire a W-2 worker, they are considered a work made for hire, which means anything that an employee creates is typically owned by the employer. So the employee is not the copyright author, the employer is the author and the owner. Then you have works that are commissioned. And this is where there's 9 statutory categories of work that's commissioned. If it falls within these 9 categories, then the copyright author and owner actually becomes the one who commissioned the work. not the one who actually created it. So these are exceptions. And so again, it covers employees and it also covers works that are being commissioned. All right, so let's shake it, y'all. I'm gonna give you 30 seconds and I want you to grab a product. So one of the best places to grab a product is either on your desk or in your bathroom. Y'all probably got plenty of products in your bathroom. And so take 30 seconds and go grab a product. Go grab a product. Go grab a product. Come on, come on. Come on, come on. Come on, y'all. I know it's getting late. Let's get the blood pumping. You got 15 more seconds. Grab a product. Grab a product. Grab a product. And I forgot to share. My book. I grabbed a copyright too. I grabbed one of my books from a shelf. It was real quick to grab. All right. So I hope you have your product. So let's talk trademarks. We're getting into trademarks now. And so what is a trademark? What is a trademark? A trademark is a mark that acts as a source identifier on a product or service that is used in commerce and is distinctive and not confusingly similar to an existing mark. I'm going to break this down in a moment, but I want you to think about this. How many of y'all have ever been on road trips, right? You've been driving on the road. My family, we used to go to South Carolina, from Maryland to South Carolina when I was young. And y'all, that's about a 7-hour drive. And so they old school, meaning once you get in the car, we ain't stopping. We ain't stopping until we stop to get breakfast. And one of the things is, look, I'm talking about old school, like, you gotta have a potty break, right? Y'all like, oh, I gotta. It was you better hold it. Or in the most extreme circumstances, y'all, they would pull over to the side of the road, and you know how you gotta open up the doors and squat, and then you get back in the car. Yeah, old school, okay, country and old school. Anywho, one of the things that sometimes you would see in the distance is you would see an M. Y'all ever been driving and you see the M? What y'all know that M, the yellow M, to be known as when you see it? What you know it as? Y'all know what I'm talking about. What's that golden M when you see it in the distance, you're driving? Come on out, McDonald's. That's right, Kelly. You know it as McDonald's. That is the power of a trademark. You see it, you recognize it, you know what it's associated with. And so for me, it used to be so, ooh, potty break. It's time to take a potty break. Ooh, thank you. A potty break. And so here you see examples of trademarks. You see the Nike swoosh, the McDonald's. Look, even social media had trademarks. Google, Visa, look, Apple. When you see that mark, it's a trademark. Now, let me tell you this. Everything in your business is not a trademark. A brand is not the same as a trademark. And so you want to be mindful of that, because we're going to talk about what actually is a trademark and what qualifies as a mark that is trademark eligible. Because just because you brand it doesn't mean you have a trademark. And so what are eligible marks? Because I said a trademark is a mark. So what are marks that are eligible to be trademarks? Well, first you have names. So names are eligible to be a trademark. Names like Google. You have slogans and taglines eligible for trademarks, like just do it. Logos, symbols. So when you see the bitten apple, you think of Apple, electronics. Colors. You might not have known this, but colors can actually be eligible for trademark protection. And so the John Deere green is actually trademark. The Tiffany blue is trademark. The Barbie pink is trademark. The UPS brown is trademark. Colors can be eligible for trademark. Sounds can actually be eligible for trademark as well. The NBC chimes, their introduction is actually trademark. Scents can also be eligible for trademarks protection. So Play-Doh, they have a trademark for the scent of Play-Doh. And then shapes can also be eligible for trademark protection. The Coca-Cola bottle shape is actually trademark. And then you have composite or combination marks, where it's a combination of eligible trademarks or eligible marks that are eligible for trademark. And so understand that first you start with a mark, and a mark can become a trademark if it meets all 5 of these criteria. So first, let me tell you this, is that ideas, brand ideas, are not automatically eligible for trademark protection. It has to be used in business. So there has to be use, and it has to be associated with a product or service. If it doesn't meet these 5 criteria, it is not eligible for a trademark. So if you have a brand and it don't meet these 5 criteria, you have a brand, but you don't have a trademark. Okay. Your brand is not trademark eligible. It's not trademark ready. So first and foremost, the mark has to be distinctive. I want you to think about stand out, right? What's distinct about it? And it cannot be generic, meaning it's general, like dress for dress shop. It can't be descriptive, and we'll talk about what that is. It can't be deceptive, meaning that it deceives people from exactly understanding what the true source is. It can't be vulgar, and it can't have profanity in it. The next thing, in order for a mark to become a trademark, is it has to be placed on a product and or service. Now, you might be wondering, how do you place this on a service? It's in your advertising materials. It's on your website where people can actually hire you as a coach or hire you to speak or hire you for the service that you provide. That's what I'm talking about when it's on a service. On a product, you kind of understand where it needs to be on a product, but let me give you this because you're here. When it comes to t-shirts, it can't just be on the shirt. It has to be on the label. It has to be on the label. If it's on the shirt, then it's not going to function as a trademark. It has to be on the label because, again, number 3, it has to act as a source identifier. So you want to think about, is it acting as a source identifier? Meaning, when I see this mark, do I know that this mark on this product or service belongs to this business? Can I trace the source? So, y'all, let's go Bible for a moment. It says, you shall know them by their what? You shall know them by their what? You shall know the disciples, the followers of Jesus by the what? By their what? By their fruit. By their fruit. By the fruit. You shall know them by their fruit. And so there's a sign. There's a sign. There's a sign. It also says you should know them by their love. There's a sign, meaning I'm looking. Do I know the source? Some of it you can tell by the language and how people act, the source. Who sent you? Jesus called some the Pharisees and the religious people. He said, your father ain't Abraham. Your source is actually the devil. You shall know them by when I see you, when I see this product or service, when I see this mark, do I know the source? Do I know where it comes from? So it has to act as a source identifier and not just decoration, like if it was going as if it was like on a shirt. That's decoration. That's not a source. The next thing is it has to be used in commerce. This is a legal definition, and I'm going to talk about this in a moment. And then it cannot be likely confused with an existing mark. So it's not just it's the same, but it cannot be similar to an existing mark, whether it's the mark itself or related goods or services. All right. So a mark, let's talk about distinctiveness. A mark can become a trademark if it's distinctive. And so there is a spectrum of distinctiveness, okay? There's a spectrum, there's a scale. Marks that are generic, descriptive, fall more on the weak side. It's not distinctive. It don't stand out. Ain't nothing special about it, meaning there's no protection under trademark law. But marks that are more suggestive, arbitrary, and fanciful move towards being more stronger marks. They're more distinctive, and they're actually protectable under trademark law. So let me give you some examples because talking about this ain't the same as breaking it down. All right. So marks that are generic. So generic marks are like common word, phrases, or a name for a product or service. It's just common. That includes examples like aspirin, escalator, gasoline, bicycle. Now, believe it or not, aspirin and escalator actually used to be trademarked, but they lost their trademark rights because people started using aspirin and escalator more just in regular language. So when it became common, it lost its distinctive value. Words that are descriptive describe the content, quality, function, or specific characteristic of the product or service. So as we go through this, I want you to think about your own brand and trademarks. Does what you call your signature course or your signature or conference, where does it fall on this scale? If it's descriptive, then again, it's describing. So public storage, what is public storage? It's for the public to store their stuff. Best Buy, what's it for? It's for you to get the best buy. U.S. News, it's U.S. News. Vision Center, y'all, I gotta go buy my new glasses. Vision Center, where you see what I'm saying? It's descriptive. It describes it. Now, suggestive is a little bit different. Suggestive express or suggest an attribute or a feature of the product or service requiring some thought as to its meaning. So it's kind of like a brain teaser. It's describing it, but you have to make another step in reasoning and analyze it in order for you to understand it. So Burger King. Burger King sells burgers, but hold on, where did King come in from? Burger King. Whirlpool. Hold on. Hold on. What's the word? You see what I'm saying? It makes a different, it makes you have to take another step. Jaguar. We know Jaguar is animals, they're fast. So the suggestive part of it is that the car is fast too. Netflix. What was 7-Eleven? 7-Eleven. Okay, so these are examples of suggestive marks. Now, arbitrary and fanciful marks are the more stronger marks. Okay, so if you have an arbitrary or fanciful mark, this is where you can almost take it to the bank unless there's an existing mark out there that it is trademark protectable. And so arbitrary marks are words that we know about, but it's unrelated to the product or service. So Amazon, we know Amazon is the Amazon rainforest, but in this case, it's used for the store, the online Amazon shipping where you can buy things. Tide. We know tide as a word that talks about the tide of the ocean, tides that flow up. But in this case, it's referencing detergent, Tide. Apple. Apple is a fruit, but in this case, it's for electronics. Snickers. Whoo, some chocolate, y'all. But you can snicker, it's a word, but we're talking about candy. Dove, it's a bird, right? The Holy Spirit descended in the form of a dove, but here we're talking about soap, lotions, business. Now, when we get to fanciful, this is on the strongest side. These are made up words, y'all. We don't know nothing about it, and in our dictionary, it's made up. Google is made up. Adidas is made up. Kodak, Rolex, Pepsi, all made up words, meaning that they have trademark protection. It is on the strongest side. So I want you to think about the products. I want you to grab your product that you grab. You have 30 seconds to grab a product. Where on the spectrum does your product fall? I want you to think about the brand name that's on it. I want you to think about the logo. Where does it fall? Is it generic? And here's the thing, trademarks, we don't just look at the name. It's always analyzed in connection with the product or service. Because if I'm looking at a can of soda, then I'm thinking about drink. So I have to analyze that name in comparison to the soda. So where does your mark fall? Just tell me, is it generic? Is it descriptive? Is it suggestive, arbitrary, fanciful? Where does it fall on the spectrum? Talk to me. Where does it fall? Do you know? Do you know? Do you know? But take a guess. I'm gonna share mine. Okay, someone said descriptive. Okay, feel free to share what your mark, what you got, your product is as well. Arbitrary, you got Dawn. Okay, yep, Dawn, right? So Dawn, that's right, Kelly. Let me see. Suggestive Pampers baby wipes. That actually might be Pampers. It could be suggestive. It could actually be suggestive or arbitrary. Because Pampers, was Pampers a known? I don't even know if we had a word. I would have to look up if there's a dictionary word for Pampers, if it existed before Pampers came out. But yeah, Bolthouse Farms. It could be actually Bolthouse Farms. Actually, that could be maybe suggestive because Bolthouse, what is a Bolthouse? Now, the farms part, we're familiar with farms, but what about Bolthouse? So, yeah, it can go. Mine was my client's chapstick that I've been using. It gave me a gift. It's a lip salve. It smells absolutely amazing. And so this would fall under, I would say will fall under maybe suggestive, arbitrary. Yeah, their brand name will fall under suggestive, arbitrary. It can suggest, but it's more so arbitrary. Not really descriptive, because nothing about this is soap. It's actually a lip balm. But I'll find out, because I already found the trademark, so we're gonna find out. All right, so okay, fanciful. Yeah, and so even the shape can actually be remember, shapes of the product can actually be a trademark as well. Bath Body Works, suggestive, right? Bath Body Works, yeah, it's suggestive. It suggests what it's going to do, because Bath Body Works actually does candles as well. So there's more. So when we talk about the brand name, when we talk about the mark, we're looking at all of the products and services. Where does it fall in connection with the name? Is it generic? Is it descriptive? Is it suggestive? Is it arbitrary? Is it fanciful? And so this is how you can begin to analyze within your own brand, where does your brand fall in connection with the product or service? And so the other thing is, your mark cannot be likely to be confused with an existing mark. And so for likelihood of confusion, a mark will never be protected as a trademark if it's likely to be confused with an existing mark. Y'all, you probably have seen Coming to America. And if you haven't, you probably heard about it. And so one of the main characters in Lisa's father, I think her name is Lisa, worked at McDowell's. McDowell's. But somebody actually took McDowell's and did a pop-up restaurant in California. And so as you see, the McDowell's became a real life, it wasn't just in the movies, it became a real life restaurant. And so they were selling the same thing, as, you know, they just changed up the names. But as you can see, that M looked kind of similar to what? The golden M of McDonald's. And so this is where people learn something, that they may have changed it, but it's possible it could be likely confused with McDonald's. And so if there's a likelihood of confusion, chances are it may not pass the test. But trademarks, trademark protection and trademarks are not exclusive for every industry, okay? You don't have protection over every industry. And so this is how I teach it. Most of us have gone grocery shopping, right? And so we know there's a bread aisle. We know that dairy and milk is in one area. We know meats are in another area. Frozen foods are in another area. Toilet paper and toiletries are in another area. And then you have drinks and soda in another aisle, right? They're all in their different aisles. The same is true for trademarks. There are 45 classes of goods and services. 45 classes, meaning that when you register your trademark, you have to identify the class for that mark. So where does it fall? And so if you're in the bread aisle technically, you know, when we talk about bread, that's not likely to be confused with toilet paper. It's not likely to be confused with detergent. That's in a whole other aisle. But you can see that in the bread aisle, there are many different types of bread brands, right? Many different ones to pick from. And so this is why when we talk about likelihood of confusion, it's not enough that a mark is, oh, it might be similar. Don't do it based on that. It's based on, okay, you have to look at the product or service. Is it similar in the product or service? Is it similar? Is it similar? Is it similar in expression? Is it similar in the look of it? Is it similar in the relatedness of the goods and services? A trademark is always analyzed in relation to the good or service. If there's no good or service, it ain't a trademark. It ain't eligible for trademark protection, because it has to be on the good and service. So this is why McDowell's and McDonald's, there might be a likelihood of confusion. Why? Because they're both selling burgers. They're both in the fast food place. But because of this is how you can have Pandora Music and Pandora Jewelry, and there's no confusion. Different aisles, different classes. Same thing with Delta Faucets and Delta Airlines. 2 different classes. And so it's not just enough to be in a different class, it's also the relatedness. What is the channel of trade? Business. Meaning, are these products or services sold together? Is it a natural progression? For example, if someone sells jeans, it's natural that shoes might be bought with that. But jeans, it's not natural. It's not a natural upgrade that a medical device or a podcast will be sold with clothes, right? They're not related. So you want to think about it as that as well when we think about likelihood of confusion. And so remember, trademark protection requires use. No use, no trademark protection. And if you stop using it, no trademark protection. So where copyrights are based on the length of time it just continues, whether you use it or not, trademarks you have to be using or you lose your trademark rights. And so there's different scopes of protection based on use in commerce. You have common law. So many of you, if you have never registered your trademark, you have a common law trademark, meaning that at law, if you have a trademark that after, we gone through the requirements, you have a trademark, you have a common law trademark, meaning you have a trademark, but your scope of protection is limited to where you're using your mark. So your scope is limited. If you register with the state, you have a state trademark. So you have trademark protection only within your state. But you also may have common law trademark rights if you're using it outside of your state as well. This is where you see symbols like the TM or SM. This is for unregistered trademarks with the USPTO. So if it's not a federal trademark, you use the TM or SM. But then you have a federal trademark. This is where you get nationwide exclusive rights for the classes that you apply for. And this is where you can use the R symbol. This is the greatest protection within the United States. Okay? So remember, you have to have all five. It has to be distinctive. It has to be placed on a product or service. A mark has to act as a source identifier. When I see it, I know it belongs to this business. It also has to be used in commerce. We just talked about that. It has to be used in commerce. So you can't even apply for federal trademark protection if it's not used in the commerce that's protected under that law. So federal law, commerce means it has to be used across state borders. But for common law or state law, it has to be used at least within that border of that state in order to have those rights. 5, not likely to be confused with an existing mark. So we talked about that. It has to be distinct and not confused. Why is this important? Because trademarks are not just about protecting your brand, it's also about protecting consumers. We want to make sure that consumers are not being duped by somebody that's copycatting and picking off of your brand, that now they thought it was you, but now they're going to somebody else and getting gypped. It's to protect consumers from being deceived in the marketplace, but also so that they associate a reputation with this brand, this mark, this business, as whether it's good quality or high quality. I'm going to put it to you like this. Y'all know what kind of quality you're going to get when you walk into Walmart versus Neiman Marcus. You know the quality of the product. Some of us used to go to New York. I don't know about you, but I did. Some of us used to go to New York and get the knockoff brands. We was carrying around Gucci and Prada and Coach and just doing it up. But it wasn't actually from Gucci, Prada, and Coach. So the quality was not the same. This is why trademarks actually protect brands and consumers. Okay? So we are now going to apply what we just learned about trademarks, okay? So trademark protected or no, similar to what we did. All right, skills. All right, so here's our scenario, and I'm going to launch the poll. Sophie is launching her own YouTube show called Own It Network. She plans to have interviews with guests, short drama shows, and a weekly news segment called What's Happening in the World. Sophie is in the process of designing and working with a YouTube specialist to ensure the network launches without a hitch. In preparation of the launch, Sophie is currently doing a US tour where she is hosting her signature event, Speak Up, Killing the Silent Secrets That Kill Us. And she is even signing copies of her book with the same name and selling volume 1, 2, and 3. So let me launch the poll so you can tell me, is it trademark protected or no? Is it trademark protected or no? Trademark protected or no? Okay, we have a nope. We got a trademark protected, okay? We have 50-50. Just take a guess. Is it trademark protected or no? Okay. Give you about 10 more seconds to get your answers in. If you're not sure, you can just put not sure. All right, I'm going to close the poll in 3, 2, 1. All right, so about 75% of you said trademark protected and 25% said nope, not trademark protected. All right. So next, okay. So does a trademark exist or not? So the truth is there is a trademark, but it's probably not what you think it is. So Own It Network is not trademark protected. Somebody tell me, why do you think Own It Network is not trademark protected? Okay. Okay. All right. Not trademark protected. So, okay. We got close to own, generic. Can I tell you that you guys skipped a step? And it's okay that you did. It's not trademark protected because she hasn't launched anything yet. She hasn't even launched it. So no trademark protection actually applies. There's no trademark because she's preparing to launch, but until she actually launches, there's no trademark. Now, if she had launched, now we would get into exactly what you guys have you guys did, right? It's launched. Now is there a trademark? And the answer would be no. Why? Because it's confusingly similar to what? Own network. Own network. Own network actually is not generic. Okay. So I think I saw generic. It's not generic because it's not describing the actual product. It's not just, it's not just talking about the product. It's not generic. It might be, it's more so probably suggestive or actually arbitrary. And so Own It Network wouldn't be a trademark if she had launched it, just because it's confusingly similar with Oprah Winfrey's network. But as you go on, she actually does have a trademark. Why? Because Speak Up, Killing the Silent Secrets That Kills Us. She's doing a signature event, meaning she's constantly doing it. You can trademark your signature events, your conferences, your events. If you're constantly doing it, you're using it in commerce. But she's also selling her book, and she has volume 1, 2, and 3. So it's a trademark as the title of her book because it's a series. So book titles are not copyright protected, but if it's a series, it can be protected as a trademark. All right. So name that trademark. Okay. So now we have another scenario. Dana is a branding strategist. She runs her own brand agency. She has helped the following clients. Terry just launched her business, Reigning Champs for Women Empowerment events. Tim rebranded his podcast, Daily Inspiration with Tim Boeing. Alex is launching his speaking business along with his book, Empowered to Fail and Win. Riley has a signature conference and course branded Playtime is Over, Girl Get Up. And so I want you to name that trademarks. First, how many trademarks do you see? How many trademarks do you see? Let me get this poll up for you so it'll be easy. How many trademarks do you see? And so you can answer the poll. How many? Okay, somebody said 3. How many trademarks do you see? Terry just launched Reigning Chance for Women Empowerment. Tim rebranded his podcast, his existing podcast called Daily Inspiration with Tim Boeing. Alex is launching his business called Empowered to Fail and Win. And Riley is doing her conference and her course called Playtime is Over, Girl Get Up. All right, I'm closing the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so here's what we got. We got 0, we have 1, and we have 3, okay? So how many trademarks do we have? First and foremost, I'm gonna ask, can you name the trademarks? In the chat, can you name them? What would you say is a trademark? Okay, so whoever, if you didn't say 0, I want you to put in the chat, what would you consider a trademark? And even if you said 0, maybe you're changing your mind. What would you say is a trademark? Y'all still with me? Y'all still with me? I know y'all doing the poll. I know it's getting late. I'm gonna try to get us to the, because we still have to do the application. So I'm gonna try to get us through this. All right, we got the signature conference and course. Okay. All right. So for the sake of time, Terry, Tim, and Riley. Okay. All right. So here are our trademarks. There are 3 trademarks. Reigning champs, Terry, you got it, Kelly. Tim, his daily inspiration with Tim Boeing. Alex is launching. So Alex hasn't launched yet. He's about to launch, which means that there's no trademark protection because he hasn't launched yet. And then Riley has a signature conference and course. Playtime is over, girl, get up. So her trademark is for her conference and the course. So there are 3 trademarks. You guys did well. All right, so let me stop right here and ask questions before we combine them together for copyright this, trademark that. So we're going to actually be combining them now. So are there any questions? If you have questions, drop them in the chat. Any questions? Any questions? If you don't, we are going to power through, y'all. I know it is 9 o'clock. So if you got to stand up, shake it out, do what you got to do. And that's 9 o'clock on the East Coast. I don't know if y'all is Central Time or West Coast. Any questions? Any questions? And if you have a question, but you're typing it, just put 1 in the chat so I know to wait for you. Because if I don't see anything, I'm going to move on for the sake of time. Okay, so I didn't quite understand the commerce. Okay, so use in commerce. I want you to think about it like this. When you have, say, your branding, you're getting started, right? You got your packaging, everything together. If you haven't advertised anything, if you haven't shipped anything across state borders, if you haven't made a sale, you haven't used it in commerce. Okay, that's what use in commerce is that there is some evidence of you actually being in business and using the mark in commerce, in business, in trade. Does that make sense, Carla? Let me know. And I can give you an example for services, right? Services, you have to write advertisement. This is where you advertise, but you have to make a sale. So when you make a sale, that is when you have used it in commerce. All right, so I'm presumed, no worries. So let's apply copyright this and trademark. Yeah, all right. So I'm going to ask you, this is an example that I have. It's called, this is real life, y'all. These are real examples. So there's a woman called Dr. Melody Stevens. She has a podcast called the Healthy Christian Women Podcast. What part of this would you copyright and what would you trademark? And you can drop your answers in the chat. What would you copyright and what would you trademark? Would you copyright anything? Would you trademark anything? What would you copyright or trademark? Let me know. I forgot I had a poll, y'all, to make this easy. There we go. Would you copyright this? Would you trademark? Or would you do both or you're not sure? There we go. Make it easy for you. All right. So we got copyright. Okay. All right. Everyone said copyright. Okay. Anybody else? I'm going to close it in 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, closing the poll. All right. So majority of you said copyright this, but I have at least one person that said both. All right. Here is the answer. It's both. Here's what you could copyright. You could copyright the podcast as a whole. But remember, with copyrights, you can also copyright each individual episode. Each individual episode has a copyright. Each individual episode is a copyright. And then together is combined together as another copyright. And you can trademark the title of the podcast. Okay, so that's what you can copyright. All right, our next example, Chicken Soup for the Soul. Y'all, how many of y'all had a book, Chicken Soup for the Soul? I had a book. I remember Chicken Soup for the Soul for teens. I don't think I ever read it, but I had it. Okay, So here's an example of what they have. There's a podcast, they have their website where they have books listed, also pet foods. So I want you to identify. Look, Carla says she got seven on the seven on the show. My apologies, y'all. I hope y'all can see. I don't know if the poll was showing, but this is what the slide looks like. They have the podcast, they have the website that shows their books as well as pet food and other books as well that they have. They even have books for dogs as well. So let me launch this poll. Would you copyright this or trademark that? And we're looking at all the pieces you see. Would you copyright this, trademark that, or both? All right. So get your answers in. And after you take the poll, go ahead and if you feeling bold, tell me what you would copyright and tell me what you would trademark. What would you trademark and what would you copyright? All right, I'm going to close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so majority of you said both, okay? Now, look, I don't do anything without intention. So the reason why we're doing this is because in your own business, when you're creating, this is to help you identify what you can copyright and what you can trademark so that you know what falls under copyright and trademark protection. Because remember, copyrights and trademarks exist before registration. So you either have a copyright or you have a trademark or you don't. All right. So if you said both, you are correct. And so here are all the things that you could copyright. You can copyright the podcast as a whole. You can copyright individual podcast episodes. You can copyright the books individually. You can copyright the website. You can also, you can copyright the website and the books. What you can trademark is chicken soup for the soul. You can actually copyright that. They have a series of books and they have the podcast. And so that's exactly what they did. They actually register a trademark for chicken soup for the soul. And as you can see, there are multiple trademarks, y'all, multiple trademarks for chicken soup for the soul. Multiple trademarks that they have. Even they even got a trademark for dog food when they expanded out into dog food. And so they also copyrighted. They also submitted copyrights. And so this is a screenshot of the list that shows up when you search the copyright database. Now all of these copyrights actually belong to the same company. And so when you're thinking about protecting your brand, understand you're playing chess, not checkers. You want to be strategic about what you're going to copyright and what you're going to trademark for ultimate protection, because copyrights last longer. They last for the life of the author plus 70 years, depending on who creates it. But trademarks only last as long as you're using it. So when you stop using it or you change up the mark, you lose trademark protection. All right, real life example, y'all. This is a real business that I found online. Okay, so I want you to tell me what you would copyright or trademark. So what you see here is you see a social media graphic for the conference in 2026. You also see the website that has a video explaining the conference. A part of the website shows the reviews and results that mentions a mastermind, and then the social media page that also shows their podcast and also shows a post for the 2025 conference as well. So you're promoting for the 2026 conference, but there's also a 2025 conference that's happening in October. So let me bring up the poll so you can tell me if you would copyright this or trademark that. Guys, because you see, I apologize. I keep forgetting to take down the slides. Hopefully you didn't see the poll still showing. But if you did, I'm just going to show the screen again so you can see it. That way it's showing on the recording. I do apologize for keeping that poll up. If it was blocking you, you couldn't take it down. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So I'm going to bring up the poll for this one, and you can let me know. Would you copyright this, trademark that, or would you do both? What do you think? What does she have? Does she have copyright? Does she have trademark? What she got here? Okay. All right. Bring your answers in. We got one more example, and then we are going to get ready to close it out. All right. Take your time. 5, 4, 3. Get your answers in. 2, and 1. All right. Okay. So Majority said both, both. And you're absolutely right. So here's what you can copyright. You can copyright the flyer. You can copyright the website. You can copyright the video. You can copyright the social media post. You can also copyright the podcast. Now, when I say copyright, I'm not talking about registering your copyright. I'm talking about copyright protection actually applies to this. But you can also register it as well. Copyright. Now, what can you trademark? You can trademark, she could trademark the name Audaciously Wild. She's using it for the conference, but she also has a different name for her mastermind called Audaciously Wealthy Mastermind. That could be a trademark as well. So you see how you can have multiple pieces of your brand that falls under copyright as well as trademark. And I think I mentioned, I mentioned the website. Okay. And so here is our last example for tonight on copyright this, trademark that. And it is one of my good friends. Her business is called CDM Creative, Christ Driven Media Creative Co. And so this is her, you see the website, but there's also a podcast, the Co-Creators Podcast. And then you see the feed that's on RS feed that shows the podcast. If you look really closely, you can see my episode down there. Y'all can go check that out. Boop, boop. All right. So as you can see, you see all of this right here. And so instead of asking, would you copyright or trademark this? I'm going to ask you to tell me what would you copyright and what would you trademark? So what would you copyright? And you can drop it in the chat. What would you copyright? Because this is going to challenge you in a different way. What would you copyright? Okay, podcast episodes. Oh, that's an old one. My bad. What would you copyright, y'all? Don't be shy. I know it's getting late, y'all. We at the end. I didn't mean to go this late, y'all, but I wanted to make sure we cover everything. We at the end. What would you copyright? All right, podcast, website, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, what else? Okay, for those of you who are waiting, what would you trademark? What could you trademark? No, that's not a video. That's actually a screen. It's actually like a catalog of the podcast. Actually, there's not a video. What would you trademark? The logo. Okay, how many logos can you trademark? How many logos do you think you can trademark? I see. Okay, 2. Okay, what else could you trademark? If you think there is something else you can trademark. Okay, the name, the logo, and design. All right, so let's do this. Okay, so what can you, I missed one, I didn't realize that. So what can you copyright? You can copyright the website. So if you said website, you're absolutely correct. You could also copyright the logos. She could copyright the CDM Creative Co logo on the left. She could also copyright the logo that's in that top corner on the Co-Creators Podcast in the middle, because that one's a different logo. She could also copyright the podcast as a whole and copyright each individual episode. Boom, copyrights. But what could she trademark? She could trademark boldly creating for the kingdom. That's a tagline that can be trademarked. She could also trademark CDM Creative Co. as well as the logo. She could trademark the name and she could trademark the logo. She could also trademark the other logo that's at the top there. So I didn't put an arrow to it, but she could trademark that one as well. She could also trademark, if you see on the white, the middle, there's another name for CDM called Christ Driven Media Creative Co. So she has another name that she could trademark. She could also trademark the Co-Creators Podcast, the name of it, and she could trademark the logo. You see how you can have multiple pieces of trademarks, name and logo, multiple levels of trademarks, multiple levels. So in terms of, I want you to remember that if you create anything with artificial intelligence, it's not copyright protected. Okay, that's the general rule. But if you create, let's say you create a logo with AI, it is possible that it could be protected under trademark law. So when something's not protected under copyright law, it could be possibly protected under trademark law. So don't ignore, you know, if it's not protected under copyright and say, oh, that's it. And then you don't think about the other areas of intellectual property law that it could be protected under. So hopefully that is instilled. So let me open it up for questions, and then I'm going to give you a bonus material and an opportunity to continue to learn more. So are there any questions so far? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Thank y'all for rocking with me. Give me about 10 more minutes and we're going to close this out tonight. All right. I don't see any questions. So first and foremost, how to get tags for t-shirts. I really don't know. To be honest, I haven't made a t-shirt yet. So you would have to I keep forgetting to stop sharing that dang on thing. You would have to look at how to get tags. You would just purchase it, whether it's the tag on the actual t-shirt or you put it on the packaging, but that is how you would apply the trademark protection for it. Okay, so I'm going to launch the poll. Guys, tell me, how was this training? How was this training? And I ask that you all share your honest feedback. This is why it's anonymous. How was the training? And then in the chat, please drop your feedback. What were your takeaways? What were your ahas? Would you recommend this training? Did it open up did it enlighten your understanding? Do you feel more confident now to identify copyrights and trademarks in your business? Let me know in the comments. Okay, so you can just share that in the comments once you have taken the poll, and let me know if y'all thought it sucked. That's okay too. I want your honest feedback. I'm always looking to improve. Okay. All right, I'm going to close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you can still share your takeaways in it. Well, thank you, Zamisha. Thank you. I tried. Look, we can't apply this stuff in a vacuum, right? We got to know. And so, y'all, I really don't know much about the Marvin Sapp. Let me just say this. I didn't look it up. I had so much going on in this month that I said, it's not my business. It's not my business, y'all. Y'all ever been in that place where you're like, this is not my business. I'm not going to look it up. I'm not going to get involved in this. But here is what I saw on social media scrolling. I saw someone put up an ad. And they had Marvin Sapp's photo on it, and they were using it for their business. And it said, if you send this, lock the doors. If I send this, lock the doors. It's time to market your brand like a cult. Now, I'm not a whole cult, thing, but I'm using this as an example, okay? Now, one of the things that we don't talk about under copyright law is there's another area that you need to be mindful of called publicity rights. It's called image rights, publicity rights. And so under publicity right law, or the publicity rights law, or the rights of publicity, all of us in our individual capacity have the right to profit off of our own image. All of us. Meaning, nobody can just take your face, your name, and then commercialize it. You have the right to control your image, your likeness. You have the right to control how your name is used. And so what happens is then when someone does something like this, now someone can come and say, oh, hold on, you got to take that down. You can't use that. And so you have to be mindful of using, let's say many of us, we like using testimonials, right? Reviews. You got to be mindful of using photos of your clients and customers in the reviews because of image rights. But there's another part to this, and it's copyrights, because who took that photo? And so if you're using a photo that either someone gave you or that you found online from your client or anyone else, guess what? It can potentially open you up to copyright infringement. Now, on the flip side of that, let's talk about let's say someone took a photo of you, you're in the public. There is no protection when you are in the public, okay? You at an event, someone take a photo of you. You don't have a right to privacy when you are in the public. So what that means is that if someone takes a photo of you, it's their photo. Now, let me say this. Let me share this. There have been celebrities that paparazzi have taken photos of them and then they put that photo on their Instagram or their social media. Do you know they have been sued for using an image of themselves and posting it? All because they didn't understand copyright and the privacy, the right to privacy. They did not have they're out, they're in the public. So the paparazzi takes a photo, they don't have the right to stop that. And so now they are being sued because they committed copyright infringement. They used somebody else's work, even when it was of them, without permission. So you want to be mindful of that, okay? And so when in doubt, how do you secure your copyrights that someone else creates for you? How do you secure the image rights or publicity rights? You do that in a contract. Same thing when you're thinking about licensing, because licensing, again, is a way to increase your income, multiple streams of income. Many of you are speaking and you're leaving money on the table because you don't understand that you can leverage different pieces of your intellectual property and keep getting paid long after the speaking engagement. And you do that with a contract. So I want to invite you to continue on learning with me for copyrights and contracts intensive. This is an intensive. It's a 3-part series where we're going to get serious and delve into contracts, but particularly copyrights. Okay. So what we're going to do is there are 3 classes and there's a bonus for VIPs. So Class 1, we're going to go over the copyright foundations. This is interactive. So we're going to go back over copyrights. I'm going to delve more into the bundle of rights so that you understand. We're going to go over author versus owner identification because you need to understand all of these if you're going to draft your contract. Then we're going to go over licensing terms. What the heck does this language mean? Language like exclusive versus non-exclusive, perpetual versus worldwide. What does this language mean? So we're going to break this down. And the time for class number 1 is 2 hours. Okay. 2 hours for me to do this effectively. Now, class 2 is where we get to drafting, y'all. We are actually going to draft these provisions. So we're going to review again the bundle of rights quickly, author versus ownership identification, licensing terms, and then I'm going to give you some practice examples that you can start drafting, practice drafting your contracts. Because the reality is some of you are drafting yourself. You're just doing it and you don't know what you're doing. So you're going to actually be able to draft and we're going to go through it in the class. Now, what I'm going to give you is there's going to be some prep work because we don't want to just draft in, hypotheticals. So you're going to be able to take what you want for your business and we're going to practice drafting that language too. So you're going to get to practice drafting your own stuff. Now, class number 3 is where we're going to get into publicity rights. So I mentioned publicity rights, right? How do we secure the rights to use somebody else's name, their testimonials and reviews? By the way, testimonials and reviews fall under copyright. That's a copyright, y'all. When they write their testimonials and reviews, they're creating a copyright. So how do you secure that? How do you get the rights to use their logo, their tagline, right? We want to show we're working with these brands, these businesses. We want to show proof. How do we secure those rights? We do that with a contract. And so we're going to go over publicity rights, where I'm going to give you sample language. I'm going to give you give you some drafting tips and contract basics. So I'm going to teach you some contract basics. Why? Because you can do all of this, but if you don't understand the basics of contracts, it can all fall apart. It really don't matter. So we're going to go over that as well. And then if you do VIP, for VIP, once we get past class 2, you're going to have an opportunity to actually submit your contract or your drafting language for feedback. So the contract language that you draft for your intellectual property, I'm actually going to review it and give you feedback. I'm going to show you, I'm going to give you feedback on how to improve it, prove it, what I would do differently. I'm going to give you feedback. So you're not just doing this without actual feedback from your specific language. You're also going to get access to exclusive virtual office hours. So once you get your feedback, you can come into office hours, you can ask questions, and there's no limitation on the questions, y'all. When I do office hours, there's no limitation on questions, but you're going to be able to ask questions. That's going to be about 30 minutes that you're going to be able to ask questions. The rest of the time, I'm going to give you sample contract clauses to beef up your legal protection. So this goes beyond intellectual property. I'm going to give you the real language that actually protects you so that you're not wasting money litigating and all of the other things that you probably don't know about in contracts that can help you just cut out a lot of nonsense because broke people can't sue you. Broke people can't sue you. Broke. And so we want to make sure that we limit their ability to sue us if anything does go wrong. So let me give you dates and times so that you know. So it starts Wednesday, May 14th. We kick it off at 7 to 9 p.m. because the first class is 2 hours. Our second class is on a Sunday, May 18th from 9 to 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. These are all Eastern Standard Times. It's on a Sunday. And then there's a window of time because you're going to be able to you have to submit your contracts if you're in VIP for review. So I need an opportunity to review that, look over it, make sure I understand, make sure I look at it. And I'm going to look to see if there are any common mistakes, because if there are, then when I go into the bonus session, I'm going to teach on that. I'm going to help you. And then I'm going to turn your contracts back over by May 27th. So the day before our last class, which is May 28th. So the bonus VIP session will be from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then class 3 starts from 8 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We may be able to get out a little bit earlier than that, but just plan for 90 minutes for that. All right, so what's the investment? So the investment is $47 for general and $97 for VIP. Now, seats are limited because I'm reviewing contracts and giving feedback, and it's Memorial Day weekend, y'all. I want to have a life, and I have a law firm, I have clients. So I can only take about 12 people for VIP. It's only limited to 12, only 12. Now, for general, I've limited to 25 because I want to be able to actually help everyone in the training. Now, that might reduce, but right now it's 25. So you can secure your seat at contracts, bit.ly / all lowercase contracts intensive, or scan the code. If you have questions, you can drop them in the box. So Tamisha, you said, would the class benefit me if I'm in the Bahamas, but I do have US clients? Yes, it will. So when we talk about contracts, understand that contracts, they're a universal language, okay? So when it comes to contracts and you have US clients, you're still dealing with intellectual property law. And so you want to be able to structure it in such a way that you keep your rights. So you're still dealing with intellectual law. One thing to understand about intellectual or copyright law, let me say copyright contract law, is it's really universal, y'all. It's really universal. As I was preparing to thinking about going global for my contract template company, I started learning about some of the language and some of the clauses actually show up in South Africa. They show up in Canada. They show up in England. I was like, I did not realize how universal copyrights and contract law actually was. Universal, because again, we do business globally, so it can benefit you. All right. If you have any questions, just list them up. Another question. If I'm teaching a class on AI images and I pull an image from Pinterest to show how to create a similar image, am I infringing? You're using it for educational purposes. So in that case, I err on the side of possibly not, because you're using it for educational purposes only, but you're also using it within a commercial setting, such as, teaching. So if possible, I would say, look to see if you can find a similar image through a royalty-free commercial license for images sites such as Pexels or Pixabay. Those are sites that I use for royalty-free licensed images for commercial use. Pexels, Pexels, and Pixabay, Pixabay.com. So those are options for you. Okay, so you can take a screenshot of this, and are there any questions? If there are any questions, this is it for tonight, y'all. This is it. You can take a screenshot of this as well. Stay connected. I want to thank all of you for joining me and staying with me. I did not realize this was going to be 2 hours, but I hope you got what you needed. And I invite you to continue with me if you're interested in learning how to draft your contracts and really protect your intellectual property, because there's one thing to know about copyrights. There's another thing to know about trademarks. But then how do you protect it? The other piece of brand protection that is overlooked is contracts. Contracts are a significant part of brand protection and legal protection, especially if it's an idea form. Okay, so many of you have clients. Many of you, right? I write this stuff in. But even, you know what? Let me make a note of that. There's even licensing. I put licensing terms even in my ebooks. in my digital products, when I sell things, there's a licensing section that I put in there so people know these are the rights. These are the bundle of rights that I'm giving you. And this is what you don't have permission to do with my copyrights. So, all right, y'all, that's it for tonight. I'm going to stay around for just a little bit longer. I'm going to stop the recording here. And